Sandro Botticelli is often remembered through one image: a pale goddess rising from a shell, her hair flowing like waves of gold. The birth of Venus is everywhere, in museums, in advertisements, in culture itself. But behind that serenity is a man who lived through one of the greatest transformations in human history, and who paid the price for believing that beauty could be divine. He was born Alessandro di Mariano di Vanni Filippi in Florence in 1445, a city that was less a place and more an idea. Florence was the beating heart of the Renaissance, a world intoxicated by beauty, science, and rediscovered wisdom. Money flowed from the Medici family, whose patronage turned the city into a laboratory for art. Botticelli grew up surrounded by genius: Brunelleschi's domes, Donatello's statues, the poetry of Lorenzo de' Medici. In this age of rebirth, Botticelli's art glowed with something unearthly. He took mythological subjects and treated them with the delicacy of prayer. The Birth of Venus, painted around 1485, wasn't about lust or mythology. It was about spiritual beauty. Venus, for Botticelli, wasn't a goddess of desire. She was a symbol of divine purity, the human soul emerging from chaos, untouched and ideal. His other masterpiece, Primavera, hides the same message. It's a scene of myth and nature, but beneath the flowers and grace lies a coded allegory about spiritual awakening, love that transcends flesh. Botticelli wasn't just painting bodies. He was painting the soul's yearning for harmony, for a beauty that leads to God. For years, Florence adored him. His paintings filled the walls of churches and palaces. He painted portraits of the Medici, religious frescoes in the Sistine Chapel, and mythological scenes for the city's elite. His style was soft yet disciplined, full of line, rhythm, and quiet emotion. But the Renaissance, like every golden age, had a shadow. Beneath the wealth and brilliance of Florence grew unease, moral decay, political corruption, spiritual emptiness. And when the Medici were driven from power, that unease exploded into fanaticism. Girolamo Savonarola, a Dominican friar, rose to power in Florence. He thundered from the pulpit that the city had become Babylon, corrupt, vain, doomed. He condemned humanist art, luxury, and even the celebration of beauty itself as sins against God. His words shook Florence. He promised a new, holy republic, purified by fire. And Botticelli listened. There's no record of when exactly Botticelli came under Savonarola's spell, but the evidence is there. In his later works, in his silence, in his transformation. His art changed. The lightness of Venus and Primavera gave way to dark visions of the Last Judgment, of divine wrath, of redemption through suffering. His brush, once devoted to beauty, began to tremble with guilt. And then came the bonfire of the Vanities in 1497. Savonarola's followers built great pyres in the city squares where people were ordered to burn their mirrors, fine clothes, musical instruments, and paintings. Everything that symbolized vanity and worldly pleasure was thrown to the flames. The fire devoured Florence's soul. It's here that Botticelli's name enters legend. Giorgio Vasari, the Renaissance biographer who wrote Lives of the Artists, claimed that Botticelli himself threw many of his own works into the bonfire, a shocking act of repentance. But historians are divided. There's no proof, no documents, no witnesses, no surviving account from Botticelli himself. It might be myth, or it might be truth lost to fire. Yet when we look at Botticelli's later paintings, the idea doesn't seem far-fetched. The joy is gone. His lines grow heavier, his colors more muted. The divine bodies of his earlier works become gaunt, haunted. They look like ghosts of the beauty he once celebrated. Some art historians believe he regretted his pagan subjects. Others think he simply lost faith in the world. Whether he physically burned his paintings or only burned the ideals behind them, the result was the same. Botticelli destroyed a part of himself. As the years passed, the Renaissance moved on. Leonardo dissected corpses to understand perfection. Michelangelo sculpted the divine in muscle and stone. Botticelli's spiritual grace seemed fragile by comparison, a relic of a lost dream. He faded into obscurity, living his last years in modest poverty, still in Florence. When he died in 1510, few cared. His name wasn't even a whisper. For centuries he was forgotten, until the 19th century rediscovered him. To a new generation searching for lost ideals, Botticelli's art felt like revelation again. The pre-Raphaelites saw in him a purity untouched by the cynicism of modernity. They brought him back to life. Today, the birth of Venus is one of the most recognized images on Earth, reproduced endlessly, worshipped in 1,000 forms. But the irony is cruel. Botticelli's beauty survived not because he clung to it, but because he tried to destroy it. He believed that beauty could save the soul, and later feared it could damn it. In that contradiction lies the essence of the Renaissance itself, the struggle between faith and reason, body and spirit, heaven and earth. Botticelli's tragedy is timeless because it's human. He painted beauty to reach God, and when he couldn't find him, he turned to fire. And maybe that's why, centuries later, his Venus still looks so fragile, as if she's not just emerging from the sea, but from the ashes of the world that created her.